Rosh Chodesh Sameach to everyone. Meshenichnas Adar Marbim Basimcha, and wish you all Rosh Chodesh Sameach. I'm recording this on Thursday, and also for Rosh Chodesh Sameach for tomorrow. I wanted to speak about the crisis in the Ukraine, and I'd like to make 2 points. My main point is the second point, and that is the point about the real tragedy of the diaspora. But first of all, a general matter which I think should be mentioned. I saw last night a very interesting interview on the Hebrew television, on the news, a reaction of a professor, Dina Porat. She's a professor at Tel Aviv University, and she's also an advisor, an academic advisor to Yad Vashem. So she was interviewed and she was asked, what does she say to the reaction? What does she react to the accusation of the Ukrainian foreign minister, or ambassador, sorry, that he said, how come Israel doesn't accept or didn't accept enough Ukrainians from Ukraine? And look at us, we in the Second World War. So he said, look how many Chasidei Umot HaOlam, look how many righteous gentles there are. We saved so many people, and you haven't saved. You haven't gone out of your way to save Ukrainians who are coming to Eretz Israel. That's what he said, without going into all the pratim. I'm sure you all see the news, so I don't have to regurgitate things that you already know. Al kol panim, she made the following things, and I think that she was just pashut excellent, this professor. She did as follows. First of all, it's correct that there was that the Ukrainians are fourth on the list as far as in the world, as far as Chasidei Umot HaOlam. She said number one is Holland, number one is Poland, the second one is Holland, number three is France, and number four is Ukraine. But the point that she said, the first point that she says, was that we have to look at the fact that Ukraine is number fourth on the list. That means nothing. It doesn't, not that it means nothing, but you have to, it doesn't show, it's not accurate, and because it's not accurate, it's not entirely true. So she said that you have to always look at how many people were saved in proportion to the Jewish population. If you take, for example, Holland, so she said, according to the statistics of Yad Vashem, so there were, at the time of the outset of the war, there were 160,000 Jews in Holland. And of those, of that population, 6,000 were saved by the, there were 6,000 Chasidei Umot HaOlam who saved Jews. So 6,000 to 160,000. On the other hand, if you look at the population of the Ukraine, well, at that time of the Second World War, there was about 2 million, 2.2 million Jews in the Ukraine. A lot of them left. Let's say she says roughly there was about 1.5 million that were there when the Nazis came in. And of those 1.5, that massive population of 1.5, there were 2,673 Ukrainians who were Chasidei Umot HaOlam. So she said, so please, just to remember the proportion. When people are going head over heels now to, of course, to speak against Putin, no one's coming over here to, not a topic, no one's coming to defend him. But she says that the ambassador was out of line because he should have been a little bit, he should have said these things with a little bit more trepidation. Because as we all know, that she said the history of the Ukrainians to the Jews is pashut soaked with blood. Starting off from the Chmelnytsky massacres in 1648 and onwards, in which hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed. What about, she says, 1919, after the First World War? For what? Ukrainians killed and murdered and tortured and raped 50,000 Jews. Then in the Holocaust, she says that there's a new book that has come out that the highest percentage of collaboration of people who worked with the Nazis were the Ukrainians. And so when we speak now about this whole crisis, so this is just an introductory point, just to remember a sense of proportion. Not necessarily everything that the people who are today, as everyone knows, is a Jewish president, but it doesn't mean, but just let's put everything in proportion. Not one was ever one Ukrainian brought to trial because of what they did in the time of the Nazis and before. And in fact, Adarabah, there's a lot of national Ukrainians who are honored. In fact, there's a law in Ukraine that you're not allowed to criticize those people who collaborated. Correct. There's a law that against anti-Semitism, but there are those laws as well. So in this whole terrible conflict in which Jews are, I'm not speaking about Israel, Jews over there found themselves in this conflict. So just to remember, before one speaks so much, to temper one's words with a little bit of modesty. Just to remember now what exactly is the history, the relationship between the Ukrainians and the Jewish people. So that's the point number one. But what I wanted to do though is to speak about the tragedy, the real. I don't know if it's exaggerated to use the word the real, but maybe the depths of the tragedy of being in the diaspora. I'll tell you what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the issue. The issue is correct. Whether the interpretation is correct or not interpretation with certain facts, I leave it up to you. It's not important because the principle is 100% accurate. Now, in the special special newscast, because of what's going on, there a certain in Israeli news on Kan, they showed one of the main rabbis of Chabad in the Ukraine, who said as follows. He said, you know what, if I'm killed, chas v'chalila, then the curse is on all you people who kept quiet during this trying time. So in this interview, this is not my words. In this interview by Kalmalevsky, he asked someone who actually was the rabbi speaking to. When the rabbi of Ukraine said, this Chabad rabbi with his kehillah is trying to now hold on to things, doing heroic work and trying to maybe escape, but he said, and he said these words, if anything happens to me, then you are all guilty in your silence. Who was he referring to? Who was he addressing to when he said those words? So the person on the panel, he says he thinks that he's referring to other Chabadnikim. He's referring to Chabad, let's say, in Moscow and other Chabad centers which have relatively been silent. Now, as I say, this is not my words. This is what a person in a panel, I don't know if that's what the person meant or didn't mean, but it's irrelevant. What Behemet does come out is, as I say, that this whole conversation, this whole experience that people are experiencing in the Ukraine and the world over, especially in Chabad, this underscores the tragedy of the Galut. The tragedy of the Galut is that there's no room really deep down for proper unity. Now look, you put yourselves in the shoes of Chabad, let's say in Russia. What are they supposed to do? What are the people in Russia, the Chabadnikim in Russia, who are so supported, who are so given encouragement, who've got an open hand to do whatever they want under the Russian government. What are they actually supposed to do? So let's not be armchair judges who can judge. We can understand already the terrible, terrible predicament between Chabadnikim who, let's say, who are in Ukraine, and Chabadnikim who are not in America, but Chabadnikim who like in Russia. And this reminds us of what used to be, everyone knows this, you're older than me, and everyone knows the stories, the true stories of people, for example, in the First World War, Jews who fought in the German army, Jews who fought under the Allied army, and they would be shooting each other. And they all these stories about a person who would suddenly be in the trenches or get out, and then you'd hear Shema Yisrael, and the Jew on the other side, the enemy side, would hear him saying Shema Yisrael. And that is what the diaspora does. The diaspora, because we're not in our place, this one belongs to Russia, this one belongs to America, this one belongs to England, this one belongs to South Africa and to the Ukraine. So because there now is willy-nilly, because there is a diaspora and we're in Galut, we found ourselves now having to have a certain allegiance to our host country. Now, what happens when Jews are in different host countries, which are like now conflicting with one another? And this is actually what the Torah tells us, and what we say that Zohar says, and Rav Kook always used to quote this matter. We say in the Tefillah on Mincha and Shabbat, Ata Echad, you are one Hashem, V'shimcha Echad, and your reputation Echad, Umi Kamcha Yisrael, and who is like you, like your nation Israel, Goy Echad Ba'aretz. Goy Echad Ba'aretz, one nation in the land. And the Zohar and the Midrashim explained, when the Jewish people are Goy Echad. Ba'aretz hem Goy Echad, v'lo b'chutz la'aretz. Only in Eretz Israel, where we then don't have to be under different allegiances. We are in our own land. We can be then in our land in conflict with others, but we can, in our own land, at least we've got the proper potential to reach unity. Of course, unity is just like a shallow word today. Everyone uses it how he wants to use it, especially today in the parliament and everything. It's just like a cheap word which means nothing. But what I'm trying to say is in the diaspora, inherently, it's very hard to get to between Jews true unity, because they always hold their allegiance to other governments. Whereas in Eretz Israel, at least there is the true potential, as we say in the Tefillah, and as the Zohar said, Goy Echad Ba'aretz. Ba'aretz, they are Goy Echad, and not outside of Chutz La'aretz. And this is actually the message of Purim, which we're going to be celebrating soon, that we do Matanot Levyonin, we do Mishloach Manot. Mishloach Manot is all about fostering the unity. And that Esther said to all the Jews, to Mordechai, go and gather all the Jews, all of them. Not that there's one who says like this and one who says like that. One I can't say because I'm scared of this prime minister, and this one because of that prime minister. Gather all of them, daven for me, and fast for 3 days, and I'll be successful. We should all have a true unity, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should save all our communities who are suffering, Achenu Beit Yisrael, and Uturim B'tzara V'Shivya, that they in a tzara, terrible tzarot in Ukraine, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bring them out from darkness to light, from Shibud to Geula, and we should see all our brethren safe and sound, preferably Aviyah, in Eretz Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom Lekulam, and Rosh Chodesh Sameach.